When it comes to God of War 4, I think this game is absolutely amazing. On a gameplay level, I find it very, very, very good. And when it comes to a story level, I really like the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, which is the crux of the story. I like that. However, my problem when it comes to God of War is the fact that the game feels a lot more padded out than it needs to be. Basically, what I mean is that the story mode for this game is unnecessarily long, that the writers had to struggling a way to keep it long. The story mode of this game is that Kratos needs to spread the ashes of his second wife across the highest mountaintop. However, the way this is done is basically just a goose chase. You go from point A to point B, however you cannot get past point B, so you have to go to point C, back to point B. After you get past point B, you have to go to point D. However, to get past point D, you have to go to E, to get back to D to F. You get what I'm saying? That was really poorly explained, I'll do a better job. The story mode of God of War is basically you have point A, and you have to go to point B. However, in point B, you have to go to point C, back to point B, and after that you can go to point D. However, in order to get past point D, you have to go to point E, back to D, all the way to F. This is what I mean. You go to a mountain that is guarded by black mist, therefore you have to go to Alfheim to get light. After you go from Alfheim, you go back to the mountain to get rid of the mist. However, as you travel upon this mountain, you meet Mimir. Mimir tells you about the Jotun portal, so you have to behead Mimir, go to Freya, and have her revive Mimir. You start at Kratos' house, you go to the mountain. However, in order to get past this mountain, you have to go to Alfheim. After Alfheim, you have to go back to the mountain, and then you meet Mimir. However, in order to meet Mimir, you have to behead him, so you go to Freya, and afterwards you can do whatever you want to go to point F, which I think is like Helheim and Baldur and all that. The point I'm trying to make is that the way the story moves forward feels unnecessarily long. And this artificial length honestly felt like this part of this game was like a fetch quest, which I'm not a big fan of. Now, a game that does something similar to this fetch quest idea I'm throwing around, but does it very well, would be Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 had a similar idea where you go to Rome to get a cross, afterwards you go to Scotland to get a coin, afterwards you go to Madagascar, you go to a tower, so on and so forth. However, the reason why I do not have a problem with Uncharted doing this is because this is framed as a trial. Nate and Sam are going through a trial to find Libertalia, therefore it makes sense to me. In order to find this treasure, you have to go through trials that these previous pirates have gone along like 800 years ago, whatever the time it was. God of War doesn't have anything like this excuse. If you ask me, a way to solve this issue is simple. You could have it such that the only way you can go to Jotunheim is through the Bifrost. However, in order to go to Jotunheim through the Bifrost, you have to follow a specific set of instructions. And what's really funny is that the game does that, except it does that for like the second half of it. For the first half, you have to go to that specific mountain type where you found Mimir. But as it stands, the reason why we go to places like Alfheim or Helheim is not because we had to go, but because it's a stopgap. If you want an example, instead of going to Alfheim in order to get light to remove the dark mist, why not go to Alfheim, because Alfheim has a key component that is needed in order to open the Jotunheim Bifrost. Not necessarily the key itself, but a key component. But even with its criticism, it does not take away the enjoyment I have for this game. This game is at least an 8 out of 10 for me.